What is up, everybody? This is Voth, and in this video I'm going to discuss Total War Warhammer. Obviously it has its own page on Steam now, so therefore it is a thing. Now I'd like to preface this video by saying, though I'm very excited about Warhammer, I'm in no way a Warhammer fanboy. I don't own any books, I don't own any miniatures. I own, I think, 2 video games that are part of the Warhammer franchise. So my approach to this is very much from a gamer's perspective, relatively unbiased. Now, one of the main reasons that I'm very excited about this game is because what it brings to the table is 30 years of gameplay testing and balance and a ton of diversity. One of the things that plagued, off the top of my head, Attila in Rome was the fact that Germanic barbarians made up like 80% of the game. There wasn't a vast amount of diversity, and it's historically accurate, so I have no real reason to argue against it. But once you played one of the Germanic factions, you kind of played them all. Um, Whereas in Total War Warhammer, or in the Warhammer series, I mean, you have very distinct factions. They have very distinct cultures. They have very distinct strengths and weaknesses and play styles. So each time you start playing as a new faction, you're going to have to sort of learn how to play them. It's not going to be like, oh, I'm just playing another Germanic. No, you're going to be playing the Chaos, or you're going to be playing the Empire, or you're going to be playing the Greenskins, or the Undead, or I don't know. I don't even know all the factions, but I know there's like at least 5. Now, here's a random picture that I pulled off the internet. I don't know any of these people, but I thought it was good for showing the similarities between Warhammer and the Total War series. First off, you have your army. The army is arrayed in units. You wage war through linear warfare. Uh, Here we have infantry making up the mid. We have cavalries wrapping around the side. You have artillery set up in the back. We have some skirmishers on a hill here. It plays out exactly like a total war battle. Or I guess you could argue that a total war battle plays out exactly like a Warhammer battle, since technically Warhammer came first. Um, it's sort of like Warhammer is the tabletop dice-driven version of Total War. Because Total War, you have the same units moving around. They move around the same way. Their attacks are calculated the same way, but you don't roll dice. It just sort of happens all under the hood in the background, and you don't actually see it. But the units have HP, they have attack ratings, they have defense ratings. You roll a percentile or generate a random number for a percentile to determine whether or not you've hit based off the attack and defense statistics. So mechanically, they're almost the same game. One, you push figures around with your hand. One, you push them around with a mouse. But the games play very, very similarly. Tactically speaking. Something else interesting to consider in the Warhammer release is the fact that religion and magic are actually going to be a thing. In previous releases of Total War, religion is a very, sterile thing, sort of, it doesn't have a huge impact. You can get some public order here, maybe some morale for units there, but it wasn't massively impactful. And, I remember in the prep for Attila, they're saying, religion's going to matter so much more. But I'm sorry, it really doesn't. Occasionally I'll convert to a religion out of convenience for public order's sake, but for the most part, it's something I ignore. Um, but in Warhammer, it's going to have a lot more impact, I think. Priest, instead of something that you deploy in a province for a little bit of additional public order, are going to be something that you put in an army for some sort of crazy blessing, or allows you to fight evil better, or gives you fire protection. I don't know. I don't know enough about the Warhammer universe to determine what kind of buffs they're going to give you, but I know that they're going to matter a lot more. So it's going to add an extra layer to think about when planning your armies. And in my opinion, the more layers, the merrier. I'm looking for something that's in-depth and challenging. And as I was saying earlier, the difference between history versus fantasy. Instead of reading a history book to prepare for this game, you should probably go read Lord of the Rings, or the other one, the Hobbit one, because this game, as you can see by this picture, is very much inspired by the whole, Tolkien, I don't know what you call it, mythology, I guess. It's a fun thing. I think it's going to be an interesting change of pace, to say the least.